What is up guys, in this video we're actually comparing the graphics on the PS1, PS2, PS3 and you guessed it, the PS4. So quite obviously, the graphics on the PS2 are going to be better than the PS1s, and the PS3s are going to be better than the PS2s. But by how much? And do these sort of differences that we observe justify the whole sort of generational gap?
So we're going to start by looking at Final Fantasy IX on the PlayStation 1. First of all, the resolution. The PlayStation 1 ran games at a native resolution of 320 by 240. That is bad. In fact, to put that in perspective, we could actually consider a current 2K phone display. That actually tops out at 48 times the resolution of the PlayStation 1. So you can really imagine that when this is stretched out to maybe a 25-30 inch TV, remember we didn't have 50 inches back then, it didn't look great. The textures on the other hand and the detail are actually not too bad, but what we really do tend to notice and what is characteristic of PlayStation 1 games is the very blocky character models. There was just a generally low polygon count in these games. Having said that though, it was actually very impressive that the PS1 could play games in 3D. It was one of the first devices that could really do that. The PlayStation 1 also had a characteristically low frame rate with a lot of its games, with most of them topping out at 25 frames per second. Now moving on to Final Fantasy XI on the PlayStation 2, there's a pretty big jump here. First of all, the frame rate. This game runs at an almost solid 60 frames per second. That makes a huge difference as you can see. Next, you can see the resolution has also been bumped up. The PS2 could output at 480p, which doesn't sound like much, but was actually 5 times the resolution of the PS1. You can see that the blocky models of the PS1 era are totally gone, and these ones have a lot more polygons on screen. The only thing that didn't really improve here are the textures. You can see they're still pretty uninteresting and pretty bare. We still have the awesome over-the-top animations from the PlayStation 1 versions of the game, and of course they're even better on the PS2. The CG cutscenes are gorgeous as always. Now the PS2 was sort of characterized by a slightly muddy look for almost all of its games, and that was due to a combination of the increased resolution, frame rate, all these sorts of things improving without the textures. So then we have Final Fantasy XIII on the PlayStation 3. Now this is not exactly a typical Final Fantasy title, but it's still good for comparison. So you can see the graphics are much better. The game now plays at a solid 720p. The frame rate remains pretty much unchanged, with most PlayStation 3 titles playing at 30 to 60 frames per second very solidly. The PS3 was hugely more capable than the PS2, with one of the big improvements coming in the form of VRAM. This graphics RAM allowed the textures to be much better. Now textures play a huge role in the way a game looks. They form a part of everything you see on the screen. They're clearer, sharper, and much more well defined. Furthermore, the lighting has taken a huge improvement from the PS2 to the PS3, partly due to an increase in power, but also new technologies coming out and a great evolution in the PC arena which has been ported over to the consoles. And last, and quite obviously not least, we have Final Fantasy XV on the PlayStation 4. Now being about 5 to 6 times more powerful than its predecessor, you can expect the game to be hugely better, and although the differences are more subtle than with perhaps with previous generations, this game is absolutely stunning in every single way. First of all, we get the best of both worlds with a beautiful 1080p resolution and a 60 frames per second, totally solid. Next of all, we have everything from the PS3 plus more. All the amazing shadows, the lighting, the textures, it's all there and even better than ever. And then we have the draw distances. You can literally see as far as you want to. And the whole world feels alive thanks to trees gently swaying in the wind and grass moving under your feet. The actual attention to detail and the smaller things going on here, they really bring the experience to life. Things like higher resolution shadows and more animations added to the characters, they all come together to just bring you this cinematic experience which has just never been seen before. So you can tell that over the years huge progress has been made. The PlayStation 1 was released in late 1994, and by 2015 the whole gaming experience and the whole landscape for games in general has totally changed. We've also got the introduction of virtual reality, we've got 3D gaming, and 1080p at 60 frames per second alone is kind of a revolution. Now I don't think all of you are going to agree with me on this, but hear me out. So I'm going to say that the PS3 to the PS4 is the biggest change we've ever seen. When the PlayStation 1 upgraded to the PlayStation 2 and the 2 to the 3, we saw huge amounts more power, the ability to play much more complex games that had never been seen before. But with the PS3 to the PS4, there's been something different. Now clearly there's also been a jump in power and these games look much better than their predecessors, but there's more to it than that. This is the first time the companies have really looked to the future. They've integrated everything they could see on the gaming landscape into the PlayStation 4. It has full integration with your TV, it can output 4K video, it supports virtual reality, this thing is connected and powered by the cloud, and it has every single app your TV would ever want. Social interaction has improved greatly, and it's never been this easy to record and share your gameplay. This is true next gen. Thanks for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video.